Yeah, there was no assignment. Yeah, it was our day too. Hello, good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Am I audible to everyone? Please let me know. Am I audible? Yes, today you'll get the assignments. Today you'll get the assignments. So we have, like, I've decided to give you assignments after 2 sessions, so that you can, like, you have a lot of things to do in the whole week. Okay, I'll zoom in. I'll zoom in. Don't worry about it. Let me know if my screen is also visible. Not a problem, Ria. That's totally fine. Okay, so I feel I'm audible and you people can see my screen properly. Okay, okay, that's great. That's great. That's great. Yeah, we'll share everything. Don't worry. Screen not clear. Font size small. Okay. Is this fine now? Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. So today's session is going to be one of the most fun and session with a lot of work, because today we are going to learn the things that JavaScript was initially created for. So when JavaScript was created, it was initially created for manipulating the DOM, and today we are going to see all about manipulating the DOM. So you can say today is that we are doing, like, we are going to use the actual things that are present in JavaScript to actually manipulate the DOM. So we'll create a lot of things, we'll do a lot of things and try to create few things today. So I'll just go through the topics once. What are we going to learn today? So we are going to learn, first of all, I'll just write down the topics. Yeah, well, you'll get the notes. Don't worry, you'll get the notes. Notes are never deleted. You'll get everything. Don't worry about it. So I'll just go through the topic once so you can see, like, what are the things that we're going to cover today. So we're going to learn how to fetch elements, right? How to fetch elements. And we have, and then after that, I'll show you how to manipulate the text inside an element, how to manipulate the HTML inside an element, and how to work with attributes. And then we are going to work with inputs. I'll show you a few examples about it also. And after that, we are going to see how to, like there are a lot of things, but I cannot write like everything down. But let's focus on these things, please. And then I'll also try to create few examples today. So I'm also going to show you how to create that show password thing that you see on a lot of websites. I'll also show you how to create pop-ups. So the two very small assignments that we are going to perform today are, we are going to see how to create show password feature. We are going to see how to create pop-ups. You might have, like, seen it on a lot of websites. Pop-ups, you get ads, or you get you can say in some error message, some notification, anything you can do. So we are going to see all of that. So we are going to see also various kind of pop-ups. So a pop-up on click, a pop-up based on timer. So let's see. So let's see what we can cover from this today. But these are the things that we're going to learn today. Fine. Sounds interesting. Okay. Okay, let's start. So I'll just go down here. We'll start. Now remember, Whenever you're performing DOM manipulation, please focus. Today you need a lot of focus. So remember, whenever you're performing DOM manipulation, the first and the most important thing in that, you should know how to fetch elements. Because without fetching any element, you cannot work on that. So either that element can be an input element, or it can be a p tag, it can be a div tag, it can be any kind of tag, right? It can be any kind of tag. So the first thing, I'm referring every tag as an element. So what basically I'm saying is the most important thing, the basic thing in DOM manipulation is you should know how to fetch an element. So the first thing that we're going to learn today is how to fetch element by like in different variations, where we're going to see how to fetch an element using the tag name, by ID, by class name. So all about that. So the first thing that you should know in DOM manipulation, like it's the 50% of thing, you should know how to fetch elements. So that is what we're going to see in the next 10 minutes. And I also forgot to mention, we are also going to see how to manipulate CSS dynamically. So these are the things that we're going to learn, right? So let's get into it. So this is my HTML, and I have already linked my DOM man.js. So let's try to create some elements. So like, let's first just understand how to fetch elements without doing anything. Just try to understand how to fetch elements. If you learn this, all about DOM manipulation is already clear for you. Then let's start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create few p tags, right? I'm going to create, like, let's say hi, then I'll say hello, right? I have two p tags here, right? I'll create one more so you can understand. So hi, hello, and then let's say I have hola, right? So I have three p tags here. So let's first understand how to fetch elements by tag name. Let's try to understand how to fetch elements by tag name. So yesterday I introduced you to a window object, right? Yesterday I introduced you to a window object, and then I said that it has like multiple types. Window has multiple types. So console was one of it that we already used. Then other is document, and then another one is screen, and you have a lot of, you have navigator object, then you also have history object. So let's see what other things that we can cover, but these are some very basic and very important objects that window has. So today it's all about document, right? So let's first see how the document objects look like, how the document object actually looks like, what the document object actually refers to. So let's try to understand that. Let's move it. I'll run it on my server first. Let's try. Right click. You can either do open with live server, or you can also copy and paste the path and run it. So for today, I will just do open with live server. I think it will open my Mozilla. Maybe, or I'll just copy the path for now. If it is, there's a lag or something. So I'll just copy the path, go inside my browser. Okay, it opened Mozilla. That's totally fine. So for now, I'll just copy this path. Fix it here and done. So I'll just zoom it a bit. So I can see, you can see the output. I hope you can see the output. And there you go. I also have my console. Yeah. Right. Here the console. So I hope you can see everything. Okay, if you're like getting any kind of error or some lag in the live server, you can always go for the path. You can always go for the path. That's totally fine. Just copy the path and run it. Right. So I hope you can also see my console here. So let's try to understand what this document object is all about. So if I write document, you can see when I write document, the whole page is highlighted blue, right? If I just enter it, you can see this is what the object actually gives. As you can see, it gives me all about the page. I have my HTML tag, then head, then body, whatever is present inside my element section. It's almost the same, right? So as we like got to know in the first lecture that we are going to manipulate DOM. So in DOM, the D was standing for document. So that's what it is, the document object. Document object is all about DOM manipulation. So as you can see, if I write document object, I get the document that is actually very similar to the DOM tree that we have, right? So this is the object that we are going to use to fetch, to manipulate, to change, to edit all these elements, to remove, to add, to do anything. Is that clear with everyone? Okay. So let's start. Let's move. Let's do it. Fine. So now I have three P's, right? I have three P's, and I'm gonna learn how to fetch them with tag name. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is, let's say let or const, whatever you feel good, you can use it. So const paragraph. So this is the variable that this is the constant basically in which I'm gonna store my p tags that I'm gonna fetch. So the syntax for fetching elements with the help of tag name is document dot get elements by tag name. As you can see, you have get elements. That basically means something related to plural thing. So get elements by tag name, and you just go inside a single quote or double quote, you just specify the p. That basically I want to fetch the p element. That's all. Document.get elements by tag name. So the method itself defines its work. Get elements by tag name, and the tag name should be p. So I want to fetch all the p elements and store it inside my paragraphs constant. So now let's try to print that. Let's see what it is giving me. So console.log paragraphs, right? Let's see. I just go and refresh. Can you see? There you go. You get an HTML collection that basically is an array, right? There's an array in which all the three P's are mentioned. So if you just go on and select one of them, you'll get the highlighted. So first P is for hi, second P is for the hello, and third P is for the hola. So you can see all this. So basically, the name is get elements by tag name. That basically means like there can be multiple elements. Like just try to understand this. There can be multiple elements with the same tag name. That's why get elements by tag name will always return an array because it feels there can be multiple elements with the same tag name. Is that clear to everyone? So get elements by tag name will always return an array. So for example, if you let's say, if you have only, let's say you don't have three elements. If you have only one element, what it will do then? So I have only one element, only one p element, and still I'm fetching the same get elements by tag name. Now let's go refresh and see. You have one element, but still it is giving an array. So document.get elements by tag name will always give you an array. Will always give you an array. Is that clear? It will fetch all the elements for you and create an array and give it to you. Is that clear, everyone? Yeah, Sri Lakshmi? Yeah, please ask, please ask. So we can use console.log because console gives us detail about the particular variable. Exactly. Yes, yes, now you understood, Ganesh. Console gives you all the detail. We are not just printing, we are actually exploring that particular variable. Yes, you can also use class. I'm going to show you everything. Don't worry about it. Is this clear now? Now, as we know that if it is an array, right? So if I want to access any element from an array, I know basically I can specify any index and access it. So it's same for here. So now paragraphs is an array that contains three P's, right? Paragraphs is an array that contains three P's. So if I want to access the first P, it's very simple. If it is an array, I can just go on, specify the zero index, and that's all. Tanya, please explain once again. Okay, that's easy, right? You have three elements. I have three P's, right? I have three P's. And I said my JavaScript that please, from the document, fetch the elements by tag name, whose tag name is P, right? Whose tag name is P. I'm saying my code to fetch all the elements whose tag name is P. So it is fetching all the elements. So I have three elements in my HTML, right? I have three elements, three P's. So it's fetching all the elements and creating an array and giving it to me. That's all. Get elements by tag name is going to fetch all the P's that are present in my document, create an array and give it to me. That's all, Tanya. This is what it's doing. Fetching all the P elements, creating an array, and that's all. Yeah, it is like that. It is the syntax. Ria, it is the syntax. This is the syntax. This is how it works. Because if I write P without like double quotes or single quotes, it will think that P is a variable that is present inside my JavaScript document. That's why it is specified as a string. So I hope it is clear. Right now, if you see, I'm just getting the element. Is that clear? The first element. If I just go on and do P of 1, save it. There you go, the second element. Yes, P means tag name, exactly. The code specified get element by tag name. Yeah, I'll show you how to get content. Don't worry, we're going step by step. Don't worry. Is that clear, everyone? The first of all, we're just going to learn how to fetch elements. That's all. Once we learn that, we are going to see how to work with the content inside it. Is that clear, everyone? Is get element like how to get elements by tag name is clear? P, listen, if I don't use string notation for P, it will think that P is a variable that is available in my document. So it will search for a variable and it will give you undefined P because P is not a variable. So that's why we define it as a string. So wherever get elements by tag name method is made in JavaScript, it basically accepts tag name as a string. That's why we have to put it as a string. That's all, Maria. This is the syntax. No, you cannot, Komal, you cannot define P1, P2. Those are not any kind of tags. In HTML, it's not XML, it's HTML. That means there are predefined tags that you have to use. You cannot create your own tag in HTML. Fine? Perfect. So I'll just write by tag name here. So we're going to explore everything about all this. Now let's try to fetch an element by class name. Now, as you know, in HTML, you can also give like I'll just create a few more P's here so that it's better for understanding. So okay, so I have say 4 P's now. So let's give a few class. I'll just give it a class of English. And again, I'll come here, class of. There might be some errors, Survendra. We'll see what is that thing. Don't worry about it. Anapala, it is written inside the get elements by tag name method. It just understands it. It is written inside that method. So we don't have to worry about it. That is how the syntax in JavaScript works. And so now I have 2 elements with the class English. And as we know in HTML, you can have multiple elements with same classes because classes are made for that. You can have multiple elements with the same class in HTML, and that is totally fine. Now, what we're going to do is, let's comment this out. Come here down, again, constant. In this specifying name, I'll just say para, that's totally fine. Now, instead of by tag name, I'm going to do document.get elements by class name. As you can see, it's again get elements by class name. That basically means it's again plural. So that basically means it is again going to give you an array. So same. Now you're specifying class. So again, single quotes or double quotes, totally fine. And you have specified, I want to get elements by class name. That basically means you have to specify some kind of class here. So as you know, I have a class named English, right? So I can just go on and write English. That's totally fine. And now let's just try to print that. Console.log, whatever is inside para. So let's see what it is giving. Okay, let's save it. Yeah, I'm going to show you any different type of tag names. Yes, we have Sandeep, you have a lot of tag names. It's P, there is H1, there is div, there is span, there are a lot of tags, there is section. So now let's see what it is giving. So again, refresh, and you can see it's again an array. There are 2 P tags with class English, and it's again an array. So JavaScript and the browser already know that there can be multiple elements with the same class name. That's why they are, even in class name, they are giving an array. So now again the same thing. even if you have only one element, even if you have only one element with that class name, it will still give you an array because there can be multiple elements with the same class name. Is that clear, everyone? So get elements by tag name and get elements by class name will always give you an array. How to recognize as an element of class? Please, right now, please don't ask any HTML doubts, please, for now, because yeah, you can ask. I'll clear them. But so, is this clear? How to fetch elements via class name? You can also fetch elements by tag name, and you can also fetch elements by class name. You can always visit this lecture. I told people yesterday that you should like understand basic HTML. Otherwise, you know like don't want to understand anything from here. So I'll just suggest you please try to learn a little HTML first before moving on to JavaScript. Yeah, that is the syntax, Ria. That is the syntax. You have to write get elements by tag name and get elements by class name. That is the syntax, Ria. Those are inbuilt functions. No, as I said, you can use single quotes or double quote. Doesn't matter. Both are string in JavaScript. Both are string. Yeah, thank you, Valen, for clarifying it. For making my task easy. Thank you so much. Is that clear, everyone? Now you know how to fetch elements with class name, right? You can also just go on and specify, like, right now I have two elements with this class English, right? If I want to access the first element, same, it's an array. Again, I can just go on and specify 0 to fetch the first element, right? So I have this element. Bhageshri, let n const is just simple. Const, when I create a const, that basically means I'm creating a constant that cannot be changed. And when I use let, that basically means I'm creating a normal variable whose data can be changed anytime in the program. Is that clear, Bhageshri? When I use const, basically I'm creating a constant that cannot be changed. Yes, yeah, const is not a variable. Is that clear, everyone? Understood this by class name? Now let's try the third method. Let's just comment it out. So first of all, we are just trying to understand. Yes, it's Ganesh. It's like final in Java. Exactly, it's like final in Java. Now let's try to understand the third thing by ID. Now remember, ID is a very unique thing available in HTML. So remember this. According to W3C, no constant not necessary here. Not at all. Not at all. Okay. So according to W3C, according to their standards, you never give the same ID to multiple elements. ID is made for uniqueness. So whenever you're providing ID to any element, that's all. That ID is fixed now. You cannot use the same ID in other element. Sometimes by CSX it works, but that's not according to the W3C standards. So ID is made for uniqueness. Remember this. So whenever you're giving ID, yeah, that's good, Vedan. Whenever you're giving ID, that's all. You can only give it to one element. If you give like ID to another element, give it something different. You cannot give same ID to multiple elements. Remember this thing. ID is for uniqueness. So now, if I just go on and let's say I give it ID of Spanish, right? I give it an ID of Spanish. Let's say I have one more P that I don't know how Spanish. Like I only know this much Spanish, so I don't know. Like something in Spanish. So this is again Spanish. Now, let's say if I just give some ID, I try to repeat it. I repeat it now. I'm doing it wrong. Remember, you don't have to repeat an ID, but I'm just doing it for just to show you how it works, right? So now let's fetch element by ID. So again, const para. Now, see how to do it. Document dot get element by ID. Now you can see the difference. In class name and tag name, it was get elements by tag name and get elements by class name. But in this, it is get element by ID. That basically says it's not plural. That basically says it is going to give you a single element. Yeah, different programs, that's totally fine. Same IDs can be used in different pages. That's not a problem, right? So by ID you can use again single quote or double quotes, not a problem at all. And my ID was Spanish. Now let's try to print it. Console.log tab, right? Now as you can see, I have two elements with the same ID. Now let's see what's happening in the console. Without body of attack, did I make a mistake here? I think my live reloading is not working. Just give me some time. Oh, I did a spelling mistake. That's a problem. Spanish. That's totally fine. Fine. So let's see. Yeah, thank you, Geetika. I got it. Yeah. So now you can see. Now I have two elements with the same ID. Just like my class, I have two elements with the same ID. But when I fetched my element and printed it on the console, it doesn't give me an array. It just gives me a single element. So if by mistake you specify like multiple elements with same ID, even if you do that, browser will not support you. It will only view the first element and that's all. Yeah, it does not return array. Even if you have multiple elements with same ID, that you should never do, but let's say if you have multiple elements with same ID, still you're just going to get the first element. Is that clear, everyone? So I'll explain what are these actually. These are the basic concepts of selectors. So class ID and tag name. These are the names by which you can select an element to work on it. So in CSS and in JavaScript, these are the three things that you use to work with an element, to select an element. That's why these are known as selectors. Tag name, class name, and ID. These are basically, you can say, references for that particular element. So you can use these three things to reference that element. Is that clear, everyone? These are selectors. So you can work on element via its tag name, but as you know, tag name, like there can be multiple elements with the same tag name. So if you want to like uniquely identify an element, you can give it an ID and specify it. Let's say you have 50 elements, right? You have 50 elements, but you want to work on only 20. Let's try to understand. You have 50 P's and you want to work on only 20 P's, right? You want to work on only 20 P's. So if you work with tag name, you're going to work on all the 50 P's, but I only like want to work on that 20 P's. So what I'll do, I'll give it a different class. For that 20 P's, I'll give them a different class so that I can work with class only for that 20 P's. Is that clear? And same with the ID. But ID is only for one element if you want to specify. That's why we regularly use class and not ID. Whether we like working with CSS or something, whether you're working with CSS or JavaScript, try to always use class. Try to avoid IDs. Is that clear? Is that clear, everyone? Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, there's one more way of fetching elements that is better than all these three. So let's try to understand that also. So it has its own benefits and disadvantages. Let's try to understand. And it's completely up to you. It's completely up to your preference, and it's completely up to how your coding works, how your things work. You can use any of these. That's totally up to you. You just have to understand everything. So now, the fourth way, by querying, right? By querying the elements. So again, let's try to understand. Const, right? Para equals document dot, you have something called as query selector. So by using query selector also you can fetch elements, and you can just go inside it and specify the tag name. So let's say I want to work with P. By default it takes tag name. By default, it takes tag name. So document.querySelector, yes, query selector is the king, you can say. Now I can just go on and write console.log. Now I'm doing the same thing as get elements by tag name. Right? I'm doing the same thing. So I've just said document.select all the elements named tag named p. Right? Now let's try. Let's try what it is doing. Let's see what it is doing. Refresh. You can see. Now I've written CSS or HTML is part of. It's a part of JS. It's a part of JS. It's not in CSS. It's just part of JS. That's all. So now I did query selector p. That basically means I told my query selector to fetch the elements tag named p. But query selector by default fetches only one element. Remember this thing. Query selector by default fetches only one element. Is that clear, everyone? So let's say if I want to specify a class here. Now, in like the previous functions, the name itself was specifying that what I'm going to do. So I was writing by tag name. So I just give tag name. I was writing by class name. So only class name was given. But now in here, if I want to specify it to use tag name or class name or ID, I have to specify with some unique identification. Like how to understand if I'm trying to give it a class name. So if I give a name directly, it will see it as a tag name. So P is tag name. If I want to specify a class, I always used to have have to use a dot notation. So dot English. Dot is in CSS and JS to specify classes. And basically, I'm using classes. So now I'm writing document dot select all the elements that query selector with the class English. Is that clear? So whenever you're using class in query selector, you have to specify dot. In here, you are specifying by class name. That's why you don't have to give any dot because you're specifying. I'm trying to get elements by class name. But in here, you have to specify dot. Now again, query selector only gives the first occurrence, only give the first element it founds. Whether you have like 1,000 elements with class English, it will only give you your first element. So save it, hit again, and that's all. The first element with class English. Is that clear, everyone? And now for ID again, you have to use something called as hash. And now my ID was Spanish. Right? My ID was Spanish. Now let's try it if it is getting me the element. Only the first occurrence. Like it is an ID, so it is by default going to give you the first occurrence. As you can see, I've got this Spanish, right? Yeah, it will give how I'll tell you how query. I'll let you know how query selector fetches all the element. I'll tell you. Don't worry. Just understand, query selector only gives the first occurrence, irrespective of whatever you are specifying, tag or ID or class, doesn't matter. Which element is fetched by any kind of element, any element. You can specify tag name by just writing the tag. You can specify ID by using hash, or you can specify class by using dot. So you can fetch any element by using like any or every element. Like let's say, I'll just show you other elements if you are doubtful. Let's say I have an H1, right? I have an H1 and I write hello JS developers, right? Now I just go on here and instead of P. Now my H1 doesn't have any class or an ID. So I'm just going to specify the tag name. So it's simple, H1, that's all. Save it. You can see I've got my H1. But only the first occurrence. Like there is a first occurrence only, but there's only one element. But query selector always gives you only one occurrence. Query they have used query selector for, yeah, maybe they have like actually yes. These are the basic features that are used in jQuery to create the functions for you that you can learn easily, you can use easily. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear, everyone? Okay. Now let's see how to use query selector to fetch multiple elements. Right? Let's try to understand. So just comment it down. Again here, constant para document dot. You have something called as query selector all. You have something called as query selector all. I'll show you, Ankit, how to do that. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll show you how to do that, don't worry. So now to fetch multiple elements with query selector, you can use something called as query selector all. So now let's try to do. So I specify something known as P. So basically, I'm trying to get all the P's. So console.log. So as you know, query selector was only getting the first operands. I'm doing query selector all. That means I want all the P's inside my document. So let's try. Para. Save it. Now you can see it is giving an array. So two P's with English, two P's with Spanish ID, and a single P. So it is giving you basically an array of all the P's. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear, everyone? Now let's try to get with the class name. So I remember I had two elements with class English, right? So dot English. Let's see what it is doing. Let's see. Again, same thing. An array with two P's. Is that clear, everyone? Now same. Let's try to do it with the ID. ID was Spanish. Save it. And now you can see the problem with query selector. Can you see it? You cannot say it is a problem, but it is something that we should not get. So now I'm fetching my element with the help of ID, and it is allowing me to fetch multiple elements with the same ID. That is not according to the standards. Can you see? I had two IDs for two, like I had same IDs for two elements, and it is giving me both the elements. Yeah, node list is kind of an array. Actually, query selector and class name by get elements by class name, get elements by ID, and get elements by tag name work differently. One gives you an HTML collection that basically means it is referring to the HTML elements, and one gives you the node list that basically means it is traveling your DOM and giving you the element. Well, I'll let you know all these things when I'll teach you how to traverse the DOM, how to travel the DOM. I'll make you understand what is node list, what is HTML collection. It's now for now, just try to understand that these are types of array. That's all. Ria, how can we say it is a king? It is a king because it is a single name, query selector or query selector all, and gives you the power to work with anything. So you don't have to remember three methods. Normally you have to remember three methods: get elements by class name, get elements by get element by ID, and get elements by tag name. But in query selector, you just have to remember one function, and that is for. That's why they're saying it's king. Nothing else. It's not doing anything very powerful. It's just you have to remember only one function. That's all. Yes, Naveen. Is that clear, everyone? Understood how to fetch elements? It's not giving wrong output. Technically, it's right because you have two elements with same ID. It is not wrong, but because it is working with node list, and I'll let you know what it is, that's why it is working like that. But according to W3 standards, it should not do that. But it is not considering that elements with ID. It is just traveling the DOM. That's why it is doing something like that. I'll explain you what is traveling the DOM and what is node list. Don't worry about it. Just for now, have you understood how to fetch elements? Is that clear to everyone? And it's completely on your preference. Like for me, I don't use query selector. I always try to use get elements by class name, get elements by tag name, because that's my personal preference. I like it. So it's completely up to you. Whatever you find easy, whatever you like, whatever flows your boat, it's up to like it's totally up to you. Not a problem at all. Is that clear, everyone? Understood everything? So this was the first thing that we are going to learn for today, how to fetch elements. Now we know how to fetch element, right? So now we're going to work with all that thing, like manipulating the text. So the next thing that we're going to learn is manipulating the text and manipulating the HTML. Let's do that. So I have just commented all these for you. You can just get it inside it. It's totally fine. And remember in assignment, just remember this. In assignments, what I do is, because of the security reasons, I convert my JS files to TXT files. So whenever you get it, just try to just convert the TXT files, rename them again to JS files. Yeah, Ayush, please ask. Hi, Ridwan. Yeah, please, Ayush, ask your question. You have fetched the value. What will we do if you want to print the value from the interface? I'm going to show you, Ria. Don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how to fetch value, how to print it, how to do anything. How to build the. I'm going to show you, Ayush. Don't worry. That's what we're going to do next. CSS attributes. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. Don't worry. Or the version of resource using get element by ID class. There is no advantage, man. There is no advantage or disadvantage. The final thing that you're doing, Ganesh, is fetching elements. So there is no advantage or disadvantage in specific. It's just in some cases the syntax might be a little shorter. That's all. There's no advantage. Okay, great. Then let's move ahead. All your doubts are going to get solved right now when we try to understand how to manipulate text. And let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. So it's up to your personal preference now. So I'm going to use anything from now, like class name or ID. It's totally up to me. You can use something that is totally up to you. That's totally fine. So now let's see how to work with the content of a tag. So when you fetch a tag, how to work with the content. So the content present inside it. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. So again, constant para. So I'll just write working with text, right? Working with text. Okay, you want to fetch the value of ID. I'll show you how to do that. Don't worry. I'll show you how to do that. Like it's never like thing like a most important thing to do, but I'll tell you. Okay, let's do it. Perfect. So again, constant para. I'm gonna fetch only one for now. Or you can say paras, that's totally fine because I'm gonna get two because I'm doing it with class name. So document dot get elements by class name and my class name and one thing I'll just clear it. For now I'll just remove this because that is something that is wrong. So document dot get elements by class name, English, and as you know, I'm gonna get two elements. Right? So if I just go on and write console.log, right? Totally fine. You see, I've got two elements, right? The first and second one, because those were the both having class English. Now let's say I only want to fetch the text of the first element. Listen to me carefully. I only want to fetch hi from this element. I only want to fetch hi from the first element. So first of all, you have to think, I have to get the first element. So this paras is giving me array of elements. I only want to get the first element. That basically means I have to specify of 0. So by doing this, I only get the first element, right? By doing this, I only get the first element. So now I have got the element. Remember, the first focus of yours should be to get the element. So to work on element, you should get the element. It should look something like this in the console. Not an array, not a variable, something like the element, the way you code. If it is looking like this, that basically means you've got the element and you can work on it now. You can apply all the element properties and features now. So remember this, the first focus of yours should be to get the element. If you get the element, now on you can work on the element. Is that clear to everyone? So now I've got my element, right? I've got the only element I want to work on. Now, to fetch the text present inside the element, I have inbuilt property for the element that is inner text. That is inner text. So I have written parallel of 0, that basically means the first element dot inner text, and I've printed it, and you can see it. I'm only printing hi here. Is that clear? So inner text is the property that is used to get the text present inside the element. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear, everyone? How to get the text of an element? Is this clear, everyone? Please let me know fast so that we can move on. Okay, amazing, amazing. Now remember this thing. So this is like a way of getting the text of an element. Now, if you like, you can also change the text present inside the element. And for that, you're going to use the same property. So remember this inner text is basically a getter and also a setter. It depends where you're using it. You can also get the text by using inner text, and you can also change the text by using inner text, like this, like this. Let's try to understand it like this. So let's say I'm not gonna do directly console. I'm gonna store it inside some variable. So I'm just writing console dot. Oh, sorry. So let's like let text equals this. Now what I'm doing is I'm getting the first element by this, and then I'm getting its inner text. I'm getting the text present inside it by writing this, and whatever text I'm getting by this, I'm storing it in text variable. Now, to change the value present inside the p element on the browser, you can use the same property, but now using it on the this side of equal to set the value. So paras dot, so not paras actually, paras is an array, paras of 0, that means basically first element equals anything. That's all. Now let's try to understand what's happening here. What's happening here? Let's try to understand. First off, I'm getting all my p's with the class name English. Then I'm getting the first element and I'm getting its text and storing inside the text variable. And then I'm printing that. And on the fourth line, I'm changing the text present inside that first p element. So that's why it's this side of equal to. So it will basically set. So it's working both as a getter and setter. Is that clear? Yes, this is what we call manipulation. That's all. This is what we call manipulation. Basically means changing, updating, and there is a lot to manipulation, but this is just the basic. Let's see. Now you can see when I load my page, I have hi in my console, but anything on my browser. Do you people understand this? I have hi in my console and anything in my browser. This is happening because I made you understood. First, I'm fetching whatever is present inside that particular element, right? I got it, I stored it in a text variable, and after that, I printed it on the console. So to start, yes, I'm doing on Ubuntu Savnik. Manisha, I'll explain, don't worry. So let's just comment this out. Right? So let's see. Perfect. So what I'm doing right now is I'm fetching the text of the first element, storing inside a text variable, and printing that text variable. So that's all. Here's hi, and I'm getting a hi in my console. That's all. Please try to understand this. I'm fetching the text of the first element, storing it inside the variable, and printing it. That's all. So first element has hi, and I'm printing hi on my console. Right? And now, on the fourth line, what I'm doing is I'm changing the text present inside the first p element. So I'm writing first p element, that is paragraph 0 dot inner text, should be changed to anything after printing the text. So to start, there was a hi in my first paragraph that I got, and printed on the console. So on the console, you'll see hi, and after that, I'm changing its text on the browser to anything. So now let's see. You have hi because you got the element, got the text, printed it, and changed it to anything. Now to make it more clear, like is it understood? Is it understood? Everything is happening on page load. I think that's why people are getting confused. If you're confused, because everything is happening at one go. But is it understood to some people? Please just let me know. Is it understood to few people? At least. I'll explain what is going on behind the scenes. Okay, that's amazing. Now let's do one thing. Let's remove this line. Now, as you learned functions yesterday, let's try to create a function. Ayush, I'll solve your doubt, but you don't worry. Okay. Now, let's see one more thing today. We learned how to create functions yesterday, right? We learned how to create functions yesterday, and we learned how to call them. But we didn't learn how to call them with the help of an HTML element, like reacting to the events. We didn't know how to call a function by clicking or by double clicking or by touching anything. So today we're also going to do that. So let's try to understand. So let's create a function for now. Right? Let's remove all these things. We know how to fetch elements now. We're going to move on to this thing again, but let's try to understand one more thing first. Let's create a function. Function do something. I'm teaching you how to call a function with the help of an HTML element. Right? So basically, I'm trying to make you understand how to handle events in JavaScript. Just try to understand, it's very easy. So there's a function, right? There's a function that basically prints hello on console. That's all. And by default, function does nothing. If I refresh it, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening, right? Now, I know to make a function work, I have to call that function, right? So do something, save it, refresh, and now I can see hello. But today, what I want to do is, I don't want to call a function directly inside my JavaScript. Now, let's say today, I have a button. I have a button, right? If I click on it, I have a button. Now, what I want to do is, listen please, what I want to do is, I want to click on this button and I want this function to work. I want to click on that button and I want this function to work behind it. So how to do that? So we are going to perform event handling. Now please try to understand. So there are a lot of, please try to understand, there are a lot of event handling attributes that are by default available in JavaScript. There are a lot of event handling attributes that are by default available in JavaScript. So what you can do is, you can use one of them. So I'm currently using on click. Remember, this is an event handling attribute. So on click, and you can now specify whatever you want to do, whatever you want to call. So I had a function named do something, and I'm gonna say, please call this function. So I can just come here, just like you call a function, just call it here. But now it will not get called by default or automatically. It will just get called when I click on this button, because I've written on click of this button, call this function. Is that clear? So for this thing to understand, try to understand like this. This whole thing is an event. This whole thing is an event. This button is an event handler, because this is the place we are going to click. So wherever you're going to perform the event, that basically is the event handler. And whatever is happening behind the scenes, like this function is going to work, this is the event listener. This will listen. When you click, this will work. That's how it works. So wherever you're going to perform the event, that particular thing is event handler, and whatever is going to happen is going to be done by event listener. So remember two things: event handler, event listener. Wherever you're performing the event, like wherever I'm clicking or double clicking, that is event handler, and whatever is happening behind the scenes, whatever function is getting called, that is event listener. Is that clear? No, Ashwarya, hyperlink is basically to go on some other page. We are not going to do that. We are calling a function by click. Is that clear, everyone? Now if we just go, now see my function is not automatically called. So I know that do something is going to, remember, do something, the function do something is going to print hello on the console, right? Do something is going to print hello on the console. So now if I just go on and click, see, if I press it, it's just going to print hello. Is that clear? Is that clear, everyone? So there are a lot of events that we can use, but for right now, I'm just using on click. We are going to see a lot of it in future. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear, everyone? Okay, that's amazing. So please don't give answer for all silly questions. If they actually want to learn, they can. That's totally fine, Akshay. That's totally fine. Okay. Now let's do one thing. Let's put all of this in my function. Right? So now what this function will do now? No. I'm showing you here. Don't worry about it. I'm showing everything. Don't worry about it. So now what this function will do is this function will fetch all the p elements. Just try to understand. This function will fetch all the p elements named class English. Then fetch the text of first p element, store it in text, and print it. Let's try to understand if it's doing it. Let's try to see. So now let's click. So after clicking, I should get this hi on my console. Let's do it. Click, and that's perfectly working. Is that clear? Shivani, difference between event handler and listener? Simple. Handler is the place where you perform the event. So the place where I click or double click, that is handler. And whatever is happening, that is listener. The function is the listener because that is going to work behind the scenes. Is that clear, everyone? So you got it? So when I click the function, I get the first element, get its text, and print it on the console. Is that clear? Now let's try to do something else. Now let's try to change the text of the first element by this function. So now, as I know, by using document.getElements by class name English, I'm going to get first two elements because those are the two elements with the class name English. So I want to work on the first element. So basically, I'm writing parallel of 0. This is only for the first element, right? This is only for the first element. Now I want to change its text. I don't want to get its text. I want to change its text. So to get it, you write it on the right side of equal to get it and store it somewhere. But now I want to change it. So you can just write it on the left side and use it as an assignment. Dot inner text. Remember, inner text is the only thing you use to get the element or to change the element, change the text. To get the text and to change the text. It just depends whether like you're writing it for fetching or you're writing it for changing. So paras of 0, that means the first element, dot inner text should become IMJS developer. Now what will happen on click? What will happen? This function will get called. This will fetch all the p elements class named English, and for the first element, it will change its text to IMJS developer. Its inner text is a property, it's not a function. It's property by default available in JavaScript for elements. Now let's try to understand. Now on click, this hi should be changed to I am a JS developer. Let's see. Click. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear, everyone? I'm going to show you how to get value of input fields with. Don't worry, Ashish. I've mentioned all the topics for today. Don't worry, we're going to cover everything. We're just going step by step for everyone. So now you know how to manipulate the text of inside an element, right? It is for P right now. It can be for div, it can be for UL, it can be for li, it can be for anything. So how the on-click code once. It's simple, man. It's simple. I have a function that does something. It can do anything, and it's just simple. I've written on that button. On click, call that function. The name of the function, right? Do something. That's all. You have to just use this name to call that function. That's all. Yesterday we covered functions. You can just go on and see that lecture, please. You just understand it for that sake. Don't worry about it. You just understand it very fast. Yeah, it's fine. Shwangi, it's totally fine. If you assign it and you change it, that's totally fine. Okay, that's amazing. So this is how you change a text present inside an element. Now let's try to understand a bit more about inner text. Now let's say I have okay, let's try to work on this h1 using its id is data, right? Now I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do get element by id. My id was data. So now I know that it's not paras because get element by id doesn't give an array. It gives a single element. So I don't have to use this para 0 now. It's totally fine. Now if you just do the same thing for this, from hello.js developer, if I click, I'm JS developer. Simple for that. We work with ID now. Now let's do one thing to understand this. Actually, I don't want to do it for H1 also. I want to do it for div. So let's say instead of H1, this is a div. Right? This is a div. Save it. Again, let's just confirm if it is working properly. You don't have to use hash when you're specifying that you're going to fetch the element by ID, because you're already specifying in the function that I'm going to fetch something by ID. Yes, I'm going to show you how to work on text fields, Komal, don't worry. Now, it is also working with div. Now let's try to do one thing. Let's try to put some HTML with it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm saying this I am JS developer should not go as a normal text. It should go with an H1. So I'm saying that div should have this element inside it now. Is it clear what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to put I am JS developer with a H1 tag inside this div. Div is just a tag, Rahul. Div is just a tag. You have to learn a little HTML to understand that div. Div is basically used to create sections on the page. That's all. It is used to create sections on the page. If I in future classes, I'm going to also do some CSS and all, so you'll understand that. Just for now, just get it like it's just an element that does something. That's all. If you don't know HTML at all. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put a text with H1 inside my div. So basically H1 should work, right? Let's try. Refresh the page, click, and see. H1 doesn't work. H1 is also printed as a text. H1 doesn't work. This is the problem with inner text. Inner text treats everything as a text. So even if you write tags or attributes or element inside the double quotes, it treats everything as a text. That's the problem with inner text. That's why inner text is only made for text and not for mixing HTML elements with text. So for that thing, you don't use inner text, use something called as inner HTML, which works for both, for text and for HTML elements. It recognizes the difference between HTML elements and text and puts text as normal text and HTML elements on the work. Now let's just focus on the change. Now print it. See, H1 is working now. It is not getting printed. It is working now. That is the difference between an HTML and inner text. Else everything is same. They're going to do the same thing. So is that clear? So inner text will only fetch text, and while writing, it will consider everything as a text. Inner HTML, when you're fetching something, it understands the difference between HTML elements and the textual content. And while putting it also, it understands the difference, and HTML things are work like HTML and text only works as a text. Yes, it's better to use HTML. Like, it's again a preference, a choice. If you just want to put some text, you can use inner text. But yes, inner HTML can do both of the things. Outside what? Outside div, you don't do that. There's a convention of writing things in HTML. So you don't actually you don't actually put a block inside an H1. So div is basically a block element. So don't put it inside an H1. So there's a standard of writing things. And yes, inside JavaScript, even if you're writing a tag or HTML element, you have to write it inside double quotes. Because JavaScript directly doesn't understand HTML elements. It's not an HTML page, it's a JavaScript page. Is this clear to everyone? No, Tanya, you cannot write it outside. If you write anything you write outside double quotes, it should be a keyword or a variable. Remember this, in any coding language, anything you write outside double quotes, it should either be a keyword, predefined or defined by you, or a variable or a constant. Else everything, you always have to write inside double quotes, whatever you specify as a string. Remember this in any language. Data is my ID, right? Data is the ID of my div. So I'm fetching that div, right? I just taught you how to fetch elements by ID, right? So document.getElementById by ID data. So basically I'm getting this div element, right? I'm getting this div element because it is having ID of data, right? Is it clear, Rashmi? Yes, you can use backticks. You can use backticks. Totally fine. You can use backticks. I'm going to show you everything. Don't worry. But is this clear to everyone now? Because देखो, अभी what will happen now is when we move ahead, it will start getting a little complicated because the code will get lengthy from now. You need to do multiple things. So just try to understand these basic things. It will get a little tough for you, but just try to understand. It's not that tough. If you practice it, it will work for you too. Is everything clear till now? I have not written para of 0, man. I have not written para of 0, Meda, because I'm doing it by ID. So it is only giving me one element. So I don't have to write para of 0. But if your doubt is how this thing is working, I'm going to show you. So what document, I'm explaining it once again. Document.getElementById by ID data. What it does, it will fetch the element having the ID data. That means it will basically give me this div, completely this div. I'm storing this div inside this para variable, inside this para constant. And then I'm saying, so that complete div is inside para. And now I'm saying para.innerHTML. That is the inner HTML, that is the HTML content that is present inside that particular div should be changed to this. Mohammed, what is text content? Text content is actually an attribute for H1s and all. So you can use that as an attribute, but it is deprecated. We don't usually use it. It can be used with P or H1 to put some text inside it. It is basically an attribute actually. Yes, no. You cannot do it with Rohan. You cannot do it with, don't do it with ID. You can do it with class. You can do multiple manipulation. No, there's nothing like inner.css, Aman. There's nothing like inner.css. I'll show you how to work with CSS. No, there should not be a particular reason, Shivangi. Maybe you're using para of 0 here. Shivangi, maybe you're using para of 0 because in your H1 it was by tag name. But in your by ID, okay, I think you're using it by ID only. And don't worry if it is not working for now, you'll learn it slowly. Don't try to rush it. So is it clear for everyone now? Can we move ahead? Niranjani, we can actually do it. Simple actually. It's just simple. If you write document.querySelector, that basically means I'm trying to select something. You can either specify tag name or class name using dot, or ID using hash and get the elements. Query selector will only give you the first element. Query selector all will give you all the elements related to whatever you are searching. Okay, can we move ahead now? Okay then. Okay. So now you know how to work with the content present inside an element, and that content can be a text, and that content can be HTML plus text. Now let's just move ahead. Let's just move ahead now, right? I'll just comment out this code so that you have this for your reference, and this function will do something else now. I'll just write changing content. I'm still writing everything in the same function so you can understand it very normally. Now I'm going to show you how to take value from inputs. Right? So for that, I need few inputs, right? So let's just come down this. Let's go up. Now let's try to create an input. Input type text. Build a class. So actually, I'm going to show you how to work with attributes first. So give it a class and then get anything. Not input first. Let's try to work with an image for now. Image src. Actually, I want to show you how to work with attributes, right? So let's just go on and search for a few images, like let's say Thor. Let's get some images. Let's get any of them. Just don't want a big image. One very small. It's really big. Yeah, that's fine. It's actually big, but let's see. So I'm gonna get its link, copy image address. I'm not gonna download it, and I'm putting it inside this src. And I'm giving this image a width of 200 pixels. So you see, I have an image, and I'll just do the BR. I'm not writing a lot of CSS, so I'm just using very basic HTML to work with it. And let's say I have a button below it that says change image, right? Change image. Let's just uncomment it because I'm going to create a new function now. So let's try to understand. I'm doing something very great now. Function change image. And on this click of the button, I want to call that function. So change image. Now, always try to confirm if all your clicks and everything are working. So for now, I'm not going to change the actual image. I'll just try to check if my function is working on click. So on click, there's change image called. And just let's do this one thing. I'll just console.log working just to check if this function call is working. So that if I do something big and I get stuck, I don't have to think that there can be error in my function. So I'll solve all those things out like in my mind first. That okay, fine, my function call is working fine. So let us go down, click on it, and that's perfect. That means I'm never gonna get my function call issue, even if I'm getting stuck somewhere. That I already checked, it is working. Now what I'm gonna do is I want to work on this image element. Remember this, I want to work on this image element. So you have to focus, you have to think, I want to work on element. So what is the first thing that I'm going to do? So the first thing that I'm going to do is to fetch that element by ID, by class name, by tag name. So now this is only one element, so I can give it an ID, right? So ID, let's say image. So ID is image, right? ID is image. So the first things, what I want to do is I want to fetch the element. So fonts ELE, that stands for element, you can give it any name. Again, same thing, document dot get element by ID, and the ID was image, right? To confirm, you can just go on and console.log it to check if it is working fine. See, click. Okay, that's perfect. I'm getting that element. That basically means it's still working fine. Okay. Now, in an image tag, there's nothing known as inner text or inner HTML, right? There's nothing known as inner text or inner HTML. So that's not a problem. I don't even want to work. Now, what I want to do is I want to change this image. And to change this image, I have to change whatever is mentioned inside this source attribute. To change this image, I have to change whatever is mentioned inside this source attribute. So actually, I'm teaching you how to work with an attribute of an element. Is that clear? Is that clear, everyone? So let's see how to do it. And it's really simple. So I'll get one more source for now. So let's say this was Ragnarok's Thor. I'll get an Infinity War Thor. Copy image address. Let's create a variable const new URL and paste it here. So I have one. So ELE holds my element and new URL holds the URL of the new image, right? And now I have to work with my attribute. So first, what is my element? ELE. So ELE dot. So by applying dot, you can do inner, like you fetch the element, then you do inner text or inner HTML to change the content. But now I want to change the source. So you can fetch any element and dot, you can use any of its attribute. You can use src, you can use anything, any attribute that it has. You can use src. You can use actually src or width or id. You can use anything. So for now, I'm going to use the attribute src. So remember, fetch the element, then dot any attribute you want to work with. So ele dot src equals this new URL. That's all. It basically means at first this was the URL. On click, I'm going to call change image that we have already checked. I'm going to call change image, and what this change image will do, it will fetch that element, and it already has a new URL. And for that element's src, it will change its URL. It will change the already existing URL. Now let's see if this is working fine. Save it. Refresh. Now let's see if my Thor is changing. Change image, and that's all. We have changed an image dynamically. This is the logic behind changing a lot of things. Changing images, making image sliders. This is some basic logic that I'm giving you. Is this clear, everyone? Is this clear, everyone? Is this thing right here clear to everyone? Please let me know in the chat. And please also write, is it looking a lot of fun? Because we are going to build a lot of things based on this. Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, let's move ahead then. I'm going to show you how do you make that we discussed, right? So we are going to make a down session in some time, but before that, I'm going to show you how to work with inputs value. Okay, somewhat confusing. So can we give direct URL without showing it? Yeah, you can give. You can totally give. I just wrote it just to like let you people understand how it is working, right? You can do it totally. I just did it like a good programming practice. Instead of variable, you can just write it here. That's all. That totally works. That doesn't do anything. Change image, still working. It was just a good programming practice to store it in a variable so that my actual code doesn't get any harm. Okay, let's move ahead now. Now let's work with text. So I have input type text. I'll give it a class or something. Remember, I'm sometimes using class, sometimes I'm using ID. It's just for you people that you can use any of this. I'm just showing you can use anything. Okay, Sandeep, can you? I'll make a doubt session in 5 minutes. Then you can ask what is actually confusing for you. It's actually a little bit confusing for you people because it's something new for you. But once you start doing it, you'll understand it very cleanly. Okay. So let's say it is name, and I'll also do the placeholder. That is name. The class is name and the placeholder is name. And I also have a button. I'm going to show you something very interesting now. Let's say let's get the value, right? Function. Let's have a function named print value, right? This is the function that is going to get called on this button. So just see my process. I'm doing it. See my process. So I create a function. I don't write anything. Just I create a function and I first apply to the event. So I check. Like these are basic things that you forget sometimes. So always do the basics first. Prepare everything. Make the structure correct. So on click, print value. So now I know on the click of this button, I'm going to call this print value. And you can again check it if you want, if it is working fine. So you can like solve some doubts in your mind. So hello. Let's see if it is working. Okay, I'll just give it a PR so that break tag. BR is a break tag, which same like /n in C or C++. So you can see I have input and I have get the value. Right? Let's do it. Okay, I just have to click to just show you how the function is working. Get the value, and you're getting hello. That means it's working, right? Now again, I want to work on that input element. It basically means I have to fetch that element first. That's the process, right? That's the process that we're learning. I have to fetch that element. But now I'm not using ID. I'm using class. And I know when I'm using class, I'll get an array. I'll get an array of elements. Even if it is one element, I'll still get an array of elements and not a single element. So now I'll get array, then I have to specify index. So let's fetch it first. So again, constant ELEs. I've written ELEs because I'm going to get array. That's all. Just to the document dot get elements by class name, and the class name is name. Just to check it, print it once. Elements. Let's see if I'm getting an array. So I have one single input only, but still I'll get an array. See that? I get an array. And there's only one element. That basically means this is present on the 0th index, right? This is present on the 0th index. So I know if I just write ELEs of 0, I get it. That's perfect. I've started getting the element now. I got the element now, right? And now I can work. I see this, I see the direct element, now I can work. So basically I have to work on ELEs of 0. That is what it is saying. So just remove this console.log. Now let's try to do it. ELEs of 0. And I want to get its value, right? I actually want to get its value. So console.log ELEs of 0. That means the element. And there is a value attribute that is present inside the input element. So I'm going to use that attribute now. Just like we used src attribute of image, we are going to use the value attribute of the input. So dot value. Remember, it's all on fetching the elements. Once you fetch the elements, you can change anything. You can change its text by inner text. You can change its HTML by inner HTML. You can change any of its attribute by dot and then any of its attribute. So ELEs of 0, I got my input element. Dot, there is a value attribute present. There is a by default value attribute present for input element, and I'm using that. So I'm printing it, right? Let's try. Let's see. My input field is still blank. I print, and I got blank. Now let's write something. Let's write my name, Saurabh. Get the value. You see. Change it. Or get the value. Or. Yes. You can use any attribute. Make sure, but that attribute should be of that element. You cannot use src for input, or you cannot use value for image. That attribute should be associated with that tag name. Is that clear? Is this clear to everyone? Please let me know. Is this clear to everyone? Okay, amazing, amazing. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll take 5 minutes to solve all your doubts. So please start asking it now. I'll take just 5 minutes to solve all your doubts. Okay, Chetan wants once more explanation. Chetan, can you ask it out? Like, is there a specific place where you're confused, Chetan? Is there a specific place where you're confused, Chetan? Please tell me so that I can explain you properly. Can you repeat, explain? Okay, I'll repeat it. I'll repeat it. Simple. I'll go by start. So simple. I have a function, print value, perfect, which is getting called on this button. That's all. Placeholder Jagruti is just this. It just holds the place. It's just a watermark for your input. That's all. Shivangi is just a watermark for your input. That's all. Okay, simple. See now. I have an input field, right? So what I did inside my print value function, I first fetched the element by class name, right? We already learned it, right? Okay, okay, okay. I'll show the code screen for a bit longer from now. That's totally fine. That's what I understood well. I understood. So I fetched the element like document.get elements by class name, right? So I got the element. But as I know, whenever I fetch something with the help of class name, I always get an array. That's perfect. So I stored whatever I got with this class name, whatever array I got, I stored it in the ELEs, right? But as I know, there was only one input element. That basically means it will be present on the zeroth position, right? So what I did ELEs of zero. I printed ELEs of zero. That basically means this input element dot value. This basically means the value of this input element. The value of this input element. There's a inbuilt attribute. Just like we changed the src attribute of image, right? Just like we changed the src attribute of image, just like we changed the src attribute, we also have a value. I'm going to show you. We also have a value attribute present. If I just like write a value attribute and just write Chetan, see now what I'll get by default. There's a by default Chetan present here. So there is a value attribute present for input tag that works for the value of that input. So just like I worked with the src attribute of image, I'm working with the value attribute of its input tag. And this is just a class. You can give it anything. I just gave it a name. You can give it anything. You can give it A, B, C, D, E, F, G, anything you want. That's not a problem. This is the place I declared the class. Is that clear, Chetan? So by using the value, you can either set or get it. So I can either change its value, I can either get its value. So to get it, I just wrote element dot value. So I got the value. If I want to change it, I'll write element dot value equal to something. So I'll change its value. No, Maria, there is no difference. It is just used for fetching elements. Yes, 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 yes. Ganesh, very right. Even if you have one element, it is giving an array. So you have to specify an index. Yes, I'm going to show you. See. So I'll just make a little bit space for you to understand. So this was the image part, and this is the input part. You can see it here. See the button and the input. You can see it here. Placeholder is just to like put a watermark in your input field until and unless you fill something. It's just like show. It's just to show what do you want to do. I can just write. See, I can just let's just see once. I'll show you the code. I can just write enter name and see. I have an enter name here. That's all. It's a place. It's a watermark. Just show it to the user. That's all. Don't worry. I'm going to share everything. Shiva, what is fetching? Fetching is getting the elements from HTML and working on them. So getting the elements is fetching. Raja, that is a very great explanation. Yes, this video is getting recorded, man. This will be up, like this will be on YouTube forever. You can watch it anytime, Shiva. So can we take 2 minutes for doubts? Please ask your doubts. Yes, you can manipulate Shreyas. Exactly, you can manipulate. Like you can play with everything. That is the thing we're going to learn a lot of things. Yes, you can use forms, not a problem. Are you sure out you what you wanted? You wanted to I have to print the value of okay, that's very normal, man. You want to get the ID, right? So again you have to fetch the element, then you can get its ID. So this is just for Ayush, he is having a doubt how to get the ID of an element. Like he's not asking how to fetch the element using ID. He's asking like if there's an element, it is having ID hello. I want to get that hello. So I want to get the value of that ID. So I'm just going to show him that. That's all. So please see, Ayush, once you fetch the element, ID is again an attribute. So you can just get the element. I thought you might have been understood until now because ID is again, ID is ID, but at first ID is an attribute. So that's all. You can just get it. Console.log. If you have fetched an element.id. That's all. It was with what? It was with image, right? So I just change image. See, you got the ID. So if your ID hello, you'll get hello. Not a problem. Is it cleared, Ayush? Ayush Sinha, is it cleared? So you fetch the element by doing anything by class name or by ID, and that ID is again an attribute, just element.id. That's all. You don't have to do it like a lot of times, but it's just like this. Okay, what is the, so please explain the image. Okay, I'll explain the image. Fine. I'll explain the image once again for you people. It's understood. I have image tab. Listen, take everything as I'm just changing the attributes. That's all. I'm just changing the attributes. Take everything like that. Just take it generally. I'm working with the attributes. So image has an attribute src by which it gets its image, but let's say it doesn't matter for now. Image has an attribute src, which gives it's the actual image that is shown in the browser. So what I'm doing is I'm calling a function change image on button click. So first I'm fetching that image element, right, by ID. I'm storing it in ELE. Then I have a URL that's for some image. Then getting that element dot src, that means I'm trying to change its src. That means I'm trying to change the value of this src. So I'm saying dynamically element.src should be this new URL, that this thing. That's all. Is this clear? Is the image thing clear now? Madhur, is it clear? Can you tell me what actually is your doubt in that image function? Because I explained again like everything about that image function. If you just try to understand, it's very easy. Okay, got it, Madhu? That's amazing. Any more doubts, people? About that URL? Yeah, you can like write that URL directly here also, or you can just store it and then you get it. That's totally fine. Yes, you can do that. There is one more method. There is something called as set attribute that you can use. But right now I'm avoiding it because I'm going to show you in the next lecture all of that. Like this is instead of using set attribute, that is basically a function that looks like it's basically you have to write a little more syntax. This is I find this convenient. Directly dot attribute. Is this clear to everyone? Do we have any more doubts coming? Yes, you're going to have a lot of assignments, a lot of questions for assignment today. Because whatever we have learned in the last 2 days, you get to work on all of that. And make sure you practice a lot. JavaScript is all about practice. This is a great language, but you have to practice to understand it. If you don't practice, this language will like show you hell. You'll never understand it. So practice is very important in here. For any other language, actually, practice is very important. I can only give you 20%. The rest 80% is everything about your practice. Remember this thing. Thank you, Sandeep. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's create something. So you might have seen that show password feature, right? When you write password, there's a button at the side of it. When you click on it for some time, or when you click and hold on it, you see the password, and when you like remove the mouse from it, that's again converted to a password. So that is the feature I'm going to build using whatever you have learned, right? So let's try to do it. Let's create that small little assignment for you now, right? Let's create that small little assignment for you now. So I'm not going to mess up this file now. This already has a lot of things. I'm going to create a new file. Okay, so I'll just name it index2.html, right? And index2.js, right? Let's write some very basic HTML code in here. HTML. Let's link it with index2.js first. Very basic thing. Script. C. Right. We'll also have a doubt session at the end. Don't worry about it. Then you can ask anything related to anything. I'm going to answer everything if I know it. Index2.js, right? So I have a new file. Now let's create the thing first. So I'm just creating a form, and I'm going to use a very basic CSS. So if you don't understand CSS, not a problem at all. It should not matter to you. That's why I told you people yesterday. So you have got 1 week. Please try to understand a lot of HTML and CSS. It's very easy to learn. And even if I write it, you will easily understand it. So I'm gonna like use a little bit of HTML and CSS to just make it a good style. That's all. So I'm gonna create a div. I'm with a class of login. I'm writing internal style. So I'll just go on and write some style here, right? So dot login. See, I'm giving a height of 400 pixel, width of 300 pixel, and background color of, let's say, blue violet. Save it, run this file. I'm running index2 actually. You see the output. I've actually zoomed it. I'll make it a little bit smaller. This is the actual size of it. I'll again zoom it. Don't worry about it. I'll again zoom it. Please, I'm not like reading your chats for some time. So please just wait for some time before asking any kind of doubts. I'm just going to focus on creating this so that I can create it fast and you can understand it fast. Right? So again, let's have a div inside it. You can see the use of div, right? I created a block. That's what div is used for. I'll just say form. I'm just giving any random class, right? So don't think about it. This is just for styling. Okay. So there should be a padding top of 20 pixel. If you don't understand it, not a problem. I'm just showing you so that you can just go on and search and understand it. At least you will have something to search. Inside this, I'll have my input. Type text, right? And placeholder, username, right? And padding from left and right, I'm giving it. Padding left 40 pixels. Padding right. Let's see how it is looking right now. Okay, that's perfect. I'm getting a very not so beautiful right now. So let's make it a little beautiful now. So dot, I can even give a class to this. Class input. Dot input. Height 40 pixels. See 100%. See it? Actually 40, I don't know why 40 is looking so big. No. That's all. Please don't worry. Text indent. This is just a very basic CSS. I'm just going to show you like how you can do text indent of 20 pixels. That is basically to move the text a little forward inside my input. See, I've moved it a little bit. I'll also increase the font size now. 20 pixels. Save it, refresh. See, I've increased my font size. I don't want this big, but still, it's totally fine. Right? I hope you're understanding it. So I'll just copy this div again, paste it here, and now it's not for username, it's for password. Input type is password. Okay. So you can see it here. I'm doing very basic CSS, so don't worry about the styling and everything. I'm just doing it. I'm just giving you something to search for. I'm just giving you something to understand about CSS. So you can understand, like, even if you understand 10% of CSS, just go on and search. There's a very good, there are very beautiful things that you can create. And again, copy that div. Okay. And finally, I'm creating a button. I'm not giving a lot of styling. It's something for you to understand. Button, let's say login. And there should always be a button side of my password. Just I can write SP, that stands for show password. So there's a SP. Just like you have a lot of buttons, right? That is SP. Perfectly fine. Now let's try to write something, right? So let's get a function show password. Now to create a function hide password. So I have two functions. One is show password and one is hide password. One will show the password as the name suggests, one will show the password and one will hide the password. Simple. Okay, fine. Now let's see if like by default how it is working. So inside username I can put anything. Inside password, whatever I put will show you only dots. So what I want to do is I want to build a feature. So when I click and hold on it, it will show me the password. And when I remove the hold, it will again hide the password. Hold, show the password, remove, hide the password. That's what I want to make because that's how this feature works on a lot of things. Yes, if you want to use without indexing Akash, you can use IDs, not a problem. I'm a very big fan of classes. That's why I always use classes. You can use IDs, different. Like, then you have to maintain different IDs. In classes, you can give a lot of same names and you can only specify indexes, or you can also apply looping and everything. Yes, you can do it in a single div. Listen, styling, containing HTML, making HTML, it's totally, there's no way of doing it. You can do it like however you like, however you feel it's good. Like, there are a lot of ways to create the same thing that I have created here. There are a lot of ways to create the same kind of thing. And I'm creating a very basic. So let's start doing it. Let's start doing it. So now, simply listen. Try to understand. My type is password. That's why it is giving me dots. If my type was text and I write it, you see, it gives me text. Right? So if my type is password, it is showing me password. If my type was text, it will show me text. So that is the only thing I have to work on. And type is an attribute. And I already know how to work with attributes, right? I already know how to work with attributes. Is it clear? So that's what I'm going to use right now. Type is an attribute, that's all. So the only thing I have to do here is fetch the element and change its attribute. That's all. Fetch the element and change its attribute. I have changed src attribute. I have known how to work with value attribute, and now I'm going to work with type attribute. And it's again an attribute that basically means fetch the element dot attribute. That's all. Fetch the element dot attribute. Simple. Let's try to do it. Let's make it password first. Now let's fetch the element first. So the class name that I'm giving it is input, right? Now listen, I have two input classes. So basically I'll get an array now. I'll get an array. And on the 0th index, the first, I'm just presuming it. I have two elements with input class. So if I do document.getElements by class name input, I'll get an array of two elements. On the 0th index, this element, the first element will be present, that is username. On the first index, the second element will be present. And I'm going to use the first index because I want to work with password. Let's do it. Constant elements equals document.getElements by class name input. And I know I'm going to get two elements in ELEs, right? I'm presuming it. Just try to understand it. Just try to get into your mind. I'm going to get two elements. On 0th element, it's username. On first position, it's password. So, ELEs of 1 will have my password field, right? So this by using, so just to check it, I can also just go on and write console.log ELEs of 1 just to show you. Let's try to click. Let's try to do it. Good. On click. Call this and check if it is working. Show password, right? Okay, save it. Perfectly fine. I have show password. Let's try if it is working. Show password. Can you see? I got the second element, right? Real easy. I got the element. Now I got the element. Now I have to work on this type attribute, and I know that is completely simple. So ELEs of one dot type. Now to show the password, what I have to do is I have to change its type from text to password. So by default, the type is sorry. To show password, I have to change its type from password to text. So by default, it is password, and I'm changing it to text. That's all. That's all. It's done. Let's try. Let's write something. See, password. On click, that show password function will be called. Right? Click and see. It is text now. I just changed its type. Is this clear to everyone? Is this clear? Do you understand this, everyone? What we have done so far? Do you understand this far? Answer it fast, everyone. Okay, Geetika. Everyone, please answer. Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. Everyone's getting it. Now, I also want to make hide password, and it's completely the same. It's completely the same. Just copy this. Like there is also a better way of doing it, but right now just understand like this. Copy this, paste it, and now I'm just saying if it is text, make it password again. So show password will make it text from password, and hide password will make it password from text. But now the problem is I specified something like if I click on the button and hold it, if I click on the button and hold it, it should show the password. If I remove the hold, it should hide the password. That basically means I don't have to perform an on-click event, because when I perform an on-click event, what it does basically, click is like holding and removing. So this is click. This is a complete click. I don't want to do this. I want click and hold to show and remove. So I want to divide my click. So there are multiple events. So I'm going to use two different events now. I'm not going to use on click. So remove this. So I'm going to use on mouse down. On mouse down, I'm going to call show password. And on mouse up, I'm going to call hide password. That's all. On mouse down. On the same button, on mouse down, please Laksh, don't spam in the chat. Please, if you don't have it out, be silent. Don't. Everyone is trying to learn here. It's a kind request from my side. Fine. So on mouse down, show password, and on mouse up, hide password. That's all. There are two events on the same button. Let's do it. Fine. Let's write something. Anything. I have some password. Go on the button. Click. I'm holding it. See, I'm holding it. I'm still holding it. Remove. Done. Click and hold. Show. Remove it. Done. So this is now that SP button can be created anywhere. It's depending on the style, depending on anything. But this is the feature. This is how you create it. The show password feature. You might have seen it in a lot of places. So this is how it is working. Is this clear, everyone? Is this clear? Did you find it good? Did you like it? I'm going to show you a lot of events. Don't worry. This is just like we have started. Today and the next lecture is all about DOM manipulation. So we are going to learn a lot of things. Anjali, do you have any specific doubt in this? Can you ask? Yes, there are a lot of things. There is type email, there is type password, there is type color, there is type file. There are a lot of types. Yes, you can use icons. Totally fine. You can use icons. No, it's not completed yet. I'll take more 10, 15 minutes. Don't worry. Output repeat once. I'll show you the output. Simple. I've written something. So there's on mouse down, I'm showing password and leaving, I'm hiding it. So I click on the button and hold it. And I'm holding it. Right? I'm holding it. It's showing me the password. I remove the hold. Simple. It's mouse click. Yes, you can also hover it, not a problem. So this is one basic feature. We are going to learn a lot of features. We are going to learn how to make pop-ups. So there are a lot of things I've decided. I'll show you. Don't worry about it. Okay, that's amazing. Actually, for manipulating CSS, I want you people to learn a little CSS first. So we have a week to learn CSS so that I can show you in the next lecture. What we had for today, let's just see. Okay. Okay. Now for one last thing for today, we learned objects yesterday, right? We learned, okay, let's do a 5-minute doubt session, then I'll take 15 minutes. I'll just take 10 to 15 minutes to create one more thing for you people. To create one more thing, one last thing for you people. I'm going to show you how to put content dynamically into a table. Sir, can make simply by keeping mouse on it, show password. Yes, yes. Just you can, instead of mouse down, you can use mouse over. So you can just take your mouse, show, remove it, and then just, because this is the feature. This is how it works. That's why I use mouse down and mouse up. You can use anything, not a problem. You cannot put it inside the password field, but you can put it on the side and make it the same color so they look the same. This is just a trick. You cannot put it inside the input field. Yes, you have to find an eye icon. That's all. Just go on internet, find an eye image, and put it inside the button. Okay, I'll do that only. I'll finish it. I'll finish it for you. A lot of people are asking how to do that. I'll finish it for you. Instead of something new that we'll do in the next lecture, because we don't have a lot of time, I'll finish it for you. I'll finish it completely. So you can just go on iconfinder.com. That is a paid site, but for practice purposes, you can use anything. Just go on Iconfinder and just write I, search for icons. So you get a lot of eyes here. You can take any of this. All this is paid. You can just use for practice purpose. Right click, save image as. I'm just saving it here. Oh, I don't want on WebP format. Just click it. I want it as PNG. Okay, have they stopped? Okay, just search on Google, not a problem. Get it free. Icon PNG. No, I don't need. Perfect. Images. Right click, copy image address. Go inside the button. Okay, it is on your file, right? Okay, I'm in the button now. Come here, instead of writing SP, put an image tag here, right? Give it an SRC, paste it. URL, right? Give it a width of 50 pixels. Okay, so there's an I symbol. You can make it a little smaller. You can just go on and give it a width of 30 pixels. A bit smaller now. See? Now you have an I symbol. And if you want it on the side, Let's apply some inline style for now. This for now, just to show you. These are by default inline, but the width of is this a little, right? That's a problem. Make it 80%, I think. Okay, there's a little bit adjustment that you have to do here. By a float of. So if I apply float, this is the problem. So I'm just going to show you. The height of it's a little bit less. I think I've done some problem. Then, okay, sorry. Okay, I have to do a little bit of CSS. I don't think we got that much time. I'll show you in the next lecture. Don't worry about it. We have to do it. We can create it an image tag, but like you also want a click, right? So I just because I was already using a button. No, if I do display inline to form group is a div. It's a block element. Display inline will not work for it. If I do display inline, I will be unable to give any kind of height and width. So we have to write a proper CSS. I cannot write form group and display inline because div is a block element. If I make it display inline, it will become an inline element, and after that, I cannot give any height or width because there is no height or width for inline elements. So I have to do a little bit of CSS here because I have not written the HTML code already proper because I just wanted, yeah, display table. I don't want to use display table here right now. I just have to use a little float here actually. That will work for it. But actually I have already a messed up HTML code. No, don't do that. Don't ever give margin bottom negative value. That's not a good practice. Rohit Sharma. Yeah, we can use that Unicode Nipun. Yes. Okay, can we have any doubts coming right now? Yes, we can do positioning, but I don't feel we don't have that much time right now. Like there's a proper CSS that I want to do. So what I want actually, I want to use some properties, but I'm not using it right now because there are a lot of people that don't even know CSS. So what I'll do is I'm giving you a week, like I'm restricted by the properties I want to use it here for you people. So what you can do is for the next week, for the 5 days, you can learn a little bit of HTML and CSS, and then we can use it properly. Yes, we can use display flex, but I don't think a lot of people know what flex is here. So that is the problem. So that's what I'm saying. I'm restricted by the code I can use right now. Please guys understand I'm restricted by the code we are using right now because I can't write any kind of complicated or CSS or something because it will make you confused. So that's what I'm saying. Try to learn a little bit of CSS in the next few sessions, then I'll do a very high level of CSS to make a lot of things fun. Don't worry about it. I cannot use display flex or properties or inline CSS to make you confused, because our main aim to understand right now is JavaScript. Just like inner Shubham Maheshwari, just like inner HTML gives you the under content, the content that is inside that tag, outer HTML give you its parents. So if I'm a div, inner HTML will give the inside content of mine. And if I write HTML, outer HTML, it will give outside content, whatever is outside of me, whatever my parent holds. Uh, it's not, Rohit, it's not like it's not good, but it's not a good practice to give negative values, because margin is not actually used for making elements move. You can use positions and then you can use stop and everything. Yes, please everyone. Please everyone, just like I'll give you assignment. You can find it on the Let's Upgrade community, and the links are in description below here. Don't worry about it. You'll get all the assignments. Rohit, I hope you understood it. It's not a good practice, because there are a lot of things that we can use to move elements. Like you can use negative value and move it, but it's not a good practice. Yeah, there were no assignments for yesterday's class, but today I'll give you a lot of assignments to work with. Actually, I wanted to do a few things, but it will take around 15 to 20 minutes more. So I don't want to take that time of you. Yes, I'll be sharing all these files. I'll be sharing all these files. So actually what I want is you people, please listen to me. Please learn a bit of HTML and CSS for the next 5 days, so that if we meet on next Saturday, if like so that we meet the next we meet, whatever I write you should understood. You should not be having any HTML doubt or CSS doubt. Right now I'm not writing any full-fledged HTML or CSS. I'm writing very basics, so that for the next time I can write a lot of CSS and HTML to show you how actually designing works. So the next time what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, just if you take my points, you can also you can also they can already research it. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is how to put dynamic content, how to create dynamic tables, how to create pop-ups, how to create time-based pop-ups. So these are the things that I'm going to create in next sessions. I'll show you how to do, and I'll show you how to create all this. So these are the things that we're going to do. It will be stored as a string. If you want to use it as a number, you have to convert it. So just like this is a very small task. So we're going to like do a lot of things. I have also planned an image slider for you. I've also planned an image slider for you. The assignments will be available on Let's Upgrade community. The link is in the description below. So I've got few things to make for you people. I'm going to show you a lot of it. So the next two lectures will be completely on DOM manipulation, the next Saturday and Sunday. And after that, the last two lectures will be completely on asynchronous JavaScript, fetching data from APIs, async, await, promises, and everything. Okay, I'll just get like, so try to understand only few things. Everyone asking what should you learn in CSS? Only few things. Note it down if you want. Understand what are margins. Understand very basic height, width, font size properties, and try to understand floats. Try to understand display property. That's all. Height, width, margin, display, padding. Try to understand padding also. Font size and color and background color. And that's all. If you know these 5 or 6 properties, that's all. You can do a lot of things. Yes, thank you for clearing, Valen. Yes, Maria session is finished. Yes, yes, yes. Actually, I wanted to show that dynamic table creation, but I don't think we'll get a lot of time for that. So in the next lecture on in the start, I'm gonna do that. Please list out important topics of JS. Actually, throughout the session, we are going to do that, so you don't have to search for it. But still, I'll do, I'll in this index2.js file, I'll list out the topics. So when you get the assignments from the site, you'll find it. Don't worry about it. I'll list the important topics in this file only. Do we have any more doubts coming? Please question. Please. I'm not saying A6 is compulsory, but that's the newest version. So you have to learn it by default because there are a lot of features in that. And if you learn it, it will be easy for you to develop. It basically means there are things that has been shortened in ES6. So if everything is shortened, you can use it more easily and powerfully. And there are a lot of features added in ES6. So it's not compulsory, but it's good if you know it because at some point of time, everything will get converted and everything will work, like everyone will be working with ES6 only. React.js is basically a library that is made with JavaScript Nipun. So it looks a lot similar to this, but it is like made for doing something else. It is made for creating UIs, but it's a lot similar to this. It's basically, you can see React.js is made with help of JavaScript only, by using JavaScript only. So if you know this, you can learn React.js. But JavaScript is for DOM manipulation. But basically, JavaScript is for everything, and React.js is made with the help of JavaScript to work with UI. ES6 is just the newest version. Like the JavaScript that we learned previously was ES5, ECMAScript 5. The current version is ES6. That's all. It's just a version. That's all. That's all. Nothing else. There are some new functions. There are some very new features in ES6 that are available. Some we have learned. Some we'll learn in future. You can encrypt password. There are libraries, or if you're using any backend language like Java or PHP, there are inbuilt functions to encrypt password. Yes, yes, Maria. Yes, for database connectivity, you have to learn Node.js. This is just a client-side JS. Yes, you will get the assignments on the Let's Upgrade community, Jakam. It will be available in next few hours. I'll create them for you people and post it there. Yeah, there are few old browsers which does not support ES6, but in some time they will all start supporting it. So don't worry about it, Rohit. There are few old version browsers which does not support ES6, but in future everyone will support it because everything is shifting to ES6. You can upload it on GitHub, Jakam. You upload it on GitHub. Yes, TZ. It's a class. It's a JavaScript class. No, 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 no. Don't confuse ES6 with jQuery. jQuery is a library built for something else. Built for making JavaScript easy. ES6 is basically a new version of writing JavaScript. So actually jQuery is also updated in ES6. Yeah, so create an account, Rohit. I think they can help you. The community will help you. You have to, I think, create an account. So create an account and log in, and you can use all the features available in that. jQuery versus Ajax is a very different thing that works for us. Ajax is basically asynchronous JavaScript and XML where you use asynchronous JavaScript to perform tasks. And jQuery is a library which actually includes Ajax in itself and does a lot of things like hiding, showing elements, manipulating DOM. So you can say jQuery is just a next level version of JavaScript, but actually it is made using JavaScript for us to do things easier. For example, if I want to hide an element using JavaScript, I have to write few lines of code. But in jQuery, there's a function. But inside that function, there is already the same JavaScript written. But we only have to call a function if you're using jQuery. So it makes our life easier. That's all. jQuery is not, it's not a language, it's just a library of JavaScript. Yes, Santosh, I also did that. Actually, there's just a margin issue I want to solve. That's all, Santosh. Maybe I just written some bad HTML here. Don't worry about it. We'll solve it. It's just styling. If you learn it in the next 5 days, yes, Ajax is just a part of jQuery. Ajax is a part of JavaScript, and jQuery again is a part of JavaScript. So you can perform asynchronous JavaScript by vanilla JavaScript or by jQuery. Not a problem. Yes, Kavya, you can leave. You can leave if you don't have doubts. I'm just solving doubts. We don't have time for the next thing because it will take around 15 to 20 minutes. So I'll show you it in the next lecture. The next lecture will be like an amazing thing because we're going to learn a lot of things. Creating pop-ups, hiding and showing things, a lot of things. Working with CSS. There's nothing like how much JS, but you should know all the basics, Rohit. You should know all the basics, and it will be very good if you know a little framework of like any one framework from Angular or React or Vue, because these three are the front end frameworks. You don't have to submit any assignments on your own. I'll give you around 5 to 6 questions. You have to solve that everything. That's all. Yes, yes, Rajiv, you too have a great day. So I see no doubts coming. So I think we can close the stream. The deadline for assignment is Friday, Anjali. Is the Friday because Saturday we have our session. There's nothing like which framework is easy, but I feel in India where we work with a lot of object orientation thing, Angular is a little easy for people in India, and Angular is very famous in India. Like React is also famous, but yeah, in here we learn Java, C Sharp, which is completely object oriented. So Angular is a little easy to understand at start. You have to generate JSON. You have to convert a JavaScript object to form a JSON. Yes, we'll have a discussion about callbacks, promises, async, and await, Shubham, in the last sessions of this course. Yes, I'll also show you what destructuring is. Don't worry about it. The last 2 sessions will be totally based on this. The next 2 sessions will be working with DOM manipulation and creating assignments, and the last 2 sessions will be asynchronous JavaScript and all the topics that you have mentioned here, Shubham. And they are just features. They don't do a lot of things. They are just features that help to in your code, to run your code, to make your code look good. That's also, we'll discuss all that. Yes, I feel you can submit. I think you can submit, Rohit. Okay, I don't think there are any doubts. So, we have any doubts coming? Please ask. Okay, I don't see any doubts coming. Hope everything is clear to everyone. Don't worry about that Ajax thing. I'll explain it in the last lectures. What is Ajax? You don't have to worry. Yes, a little Jason, but that's completely. If you, Ravi, you can just go and watch yesterday's session where I explained about JavaScript objects. If you understand that, JSON will be very easy for you. Don't worry about it. I'll explain JSON, but I just suggest you to go and watch yesterday's session where I explained JavaScript objects so that you understand JSON better. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you so much, Ravi.
Sir, answering to Rohit Sharma's question, yes, they can submit the previous assignment also.
Yes, Rohit, you can submit the previous assignment. I'm talking to the community right now. You can submit. Okay, sir, I don't see any doubts coming right now, so I think we can close. Thank you so much all for joining. See you in the next session.
Yes, like, subscribe, and share with your friends
Yeah,
if you
please
like.
like, subscribe, and share. Let's upgrade, please, and go on the community and see everything. There's a lot of helpful thing available for you there.
Correct. All the links are available in the description box. Even if you have missed any lecture or anything, there is a playlist link available in the description. Go and check it out. Complete your assignment, complete your attendance, so that you will be eligible for the exam. Okay, sir. So that's it. Then we'll end our session over here. So we'll meet everyone next week then.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. Bye bye, guys. Take care.
Thank you guys for joining. Bye.